why has Ivy, not been clear on its media angle?
So we definitely do not condone any sort of behavior that you are talking about that happens on Twitter. I personally hate it, right? First of all, I hate this fact that anybody says anything, 10 people jump in to engage. Like, why? That reporter will probably, maybe say that, oh, these guys go and abuse people in Congress. Rahul, what I would like you to do is to ask that person, what was the date and time? Who was the person that was abused? Let us know, because we keep a record of every meeting that we do, right? We will give you the names. If that person was really abused, make it a legal situation. Do something about it. We will help you because we don't condone this behavior at all.
Heard Aman say this one line that I wrote down saying that formula for success is to coordinate and speak with one voice, right? Unfortunately, right now we have a few voices. We don't have one voice, right? We've got Ivy, we've got Improve the Dream, we've got Anuj, who's a friend of ours, his organization, Fair America. But aren't we kind of dividing our efforts? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Area 51 podcast. How's it going, Sanjay?
Oh, Rahul, it's been a while, eh?
It has, and it's really funny. Every time we take our time with this, we actually got a message from like two people.
Okay.
One was through our custom texting.
You mean
option.
200 people? Right?
No,
Like
just
this.
two. I wish. But they're like, did you guys stop the podcast? And I was like, ouch. No, we haven't. It's it after Deep's episode, we kind of got busy with end of year stuff and everything related to that. But we are back with another amazing guest and
Yep.
and an episode that a lot of you are excited about. And
Yeah.
welcome to the show, Adnan. Good to have you on board.
Thank you for having me.
So
it's end of the year. Typically, people are in a holiday mood and they're off to celebrate with their family. But this is this conversation with Adnan is something that we've been planning, Rahul, since August or something like that of this year. So thanks for that. Finally, it's timelines and everything have worked out.
Of course.
But
it was our poor planning, to be honest. It was nothing related to.
Hey, our listeners don't need to know that.
No, Adnan was always available. It was just our poor planning.
Yep.
We kind of fell off the radar, and then we kind of picked it back up with the very interesting turn of events in our November elections. I was like, hey, Adnan, I think probably it's the best time for you to come back and talk about what's happening. So for our listeners, Adnan's actually a member of this advocacy group called Immigration Voice. And they've been on the forefront in advocating for our rights as immigrants in America, ranging from the elephant in the room, which is the country caps, and they've been fighting the good fight on all our behalves, talking to senators, talking to representatives, and while all of us have been taking it easy and expecting them to do the work, but so now we finally got Adnan in the room. Adnan, do you want to give us an introduction to what Ivy is, just for someone brand new who probably doesn't know what it is?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Immigration Voice is a nonprofit organization that is completely focused on going after and removing the per country cap in employment-based green cards. And the simple reason for that is because for any person who is born in India as well as China, the two most populous nations in the world, unfortunately for them, in this country, they're stuck in what is known as a green card backlog. And that green card backlog is not something that is to be taken lightly because it's not for a short amount of time. It's not 2 years. It's not 3 years. It's actually potentially a 50 to 100-year backlog, which only reduces in size when, unfortunately, some sort of calamity hits either the American labor market or hits America in general. And a couple of good examples that has now happened in at least my lifetime of staying in the backlog is either a recession or a pandemic, where things slightly get better. More people start getting green cards who are stuck in the backlog, but then it goes back to square one. Um, uh, Being in this backlog has not only harms immigrants, but also creates an opportunity for bad actors in the industry to take advantage of people who are stuck in the backlog, which directly harms American workers and completely distorts the American labor market. And we all know and have heard about, the H-1B abuse that's prevalent in society over here, which is completely true. And the root cause of that is this backlog. So Immigration Voice is an organization that was started way back in 2005. And the way it really happened was, and now maybe I'll just get into more of like how exactly things started, what has happened, etc. But it was honestly a few people actually who got together on forums that a lot of people used to frequent at that time, and they saw that, hey, why am I stuck in this backlog, right? And let's do something about this. So on the forums, there were people chatting with each other, and suddenly like a small group of people got together and said, you know what, let's just try to do something about this. And so what they did was they banded together and decided to do something about it. They didn't quite know what it was. And slowly and steadily, they understood that maybe the right way to do this is to form an organization. And ultimately, what they found out was that you can only solve this issue by changing the law. And that is what they started working on. So I'll stop there, but that is the background.
It started from a chat. It started from an online portal. That's how Ivy started?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
and I think we are all used to this, right? Way back in the day, all of us used to frequent forums of different kinds.
Yeah.
But this was
That's crazy.
I don't know if that gives away Adnan's age, but
yeah. So the interesting thing is that I wasn't that old. I don't belong to that generation.
I'm just messing with it.
Yeah, but I do belong to the next generation, I guess. But it actually did start with that. There was a forum that was dedicated to, hey, I'm stuck in the backlog, what's going on, which actually is prevalent right now as well. People do go to forums and try to debate with each other as to like, hey, what's going to be the next movement? Yeah. So that's exactly how it started.
That's crazy. So how did you get involved with Ivy?
Sure. So I actually got involved relatively later. So it was around 2016, where I was getting pretty sick of being in the backlog myself. And of course, I used to complain about this to a few of my friends. So one of my really good friends, one fine day, he sent me a recording, a SoundCloud recording of Aman Kapoor at Immigration Voice, who, I didn't know this, but he recently did a public call. And this friend of mine sent me that recording and said, hey, why don't you listen to this public call? And when I listened to Aman, for some reason, he was talking about exactly what I wanted to hear, which is to, get rid of this backlog and do it the right way, which is the legislative way, by changing the law. And I was extremely attracted because this was something I've always been interested in politics in American society, in the community as well. So, and been involved locally as well. So I thought that this was the right way to do this. And I was very happy to know that someone had actually taken the initiative, to get this done. And what I did was I simply made a phone call to a number on their Facebook page. And that was a phone number that was sort of like just kept around for, receiving voicemail. So I just left a voicemail. And then I got a call from, I think it was Aman, maybe. And my message was, hey, I want to get involved. What can I do? Right. So I think it was Aman who called me back and then said that, hey, in your state, there's this person, who is sort of responsible for the chapter in your state. Why don't you just get in touch with him? And then I got in touch with that person. And the first thing he told me was hey, you know what? We need co-sponsors for the bill that's going through in Congress. So
Right.
that's what we are working on. And can you just help us with that? So that's exactly how I started my involvement.
So which year was this?
I think it was 2016.
Wow. So you've been with Ivy for a while now.
Yep.
Are you still in the back? Are you still in the backlog as well? Or
Yes,
you're done?
that is correct. I'm still in the backlog.
Okay.
But my of course year is closer than most. Because yes, I am more senior than maybe a lot of other people being stuck in the backlog. But yeah, I'm still in the backlog, unfortunately.
Will you continue the good fight even after you get your green card?
Oh yes, I mean that's my intention. Yes, so we'll see.
Is Aman still in the backlog, or is he?
No, so he's
done?
actually been an American citizen for a very long time now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that is why I really appreciate someone like him, because one, I think, they are, and this is just my personal opinion, but there are two kinds of people in this world, right? One sort of people are, who go through some challenges in life, right? And then they're like, well, I went through these challenges. Let other people go through the same challenges. This is what we have to do in order to get where I am.
Right.
And then there are some people in this world who go through certain challenges. And then what becomes a mission for them is to make sure that people behind them don't go through those challenges, right? They don't go through all these sacrifices that have to be given, etc.
Right.
Aman definitely belongs in that second category, right? He has been a citizen for a very long time now. And he's still extremely passionate and advocates for this particular issue, and is the one who actually makes the decisions to, make sure that our bills get introduced and etc. Like whatever has to happen on an advocacy level. So,
gotcha. For folks who don't know, we're talking about Aman Kapoor's the president, I would say, of Immigration Voice, and is one of the few that banded together from that portal and started IV in 2005.
That is correct. And
I wanted to call out one specific group of people as well, other than the couple that Adnan mentioned. There's a third group who occasionally try to also close the door behind them. Once they've passed through and made it, which unfortunately does tend to get louder, especially with the current political environment on how things are. Because I think for a lot of listeners, like our listeners, what you need to understand is like the work that Ivy is doing is very focused on high skill immigration. Like we know for a fact that anyone who comes on an H-1B or a temporary work visa, I'm putting temporary in quotes here, is that they tend to typically put in a ton more tax revenue in the US system, have kids, buy houses, spend in consumers. And there's a sizable amount at this point in time that it's so significant, but they don't get any of the benefits of being taxed, literally taxation without representation. And so, whatever the work that Ivy is doing, it's great stuff. Like we love to see it, and that's why we want to have you here.
Yep. So before we get to the meat of the episode, Adnan is here as a member of Ivy. He's by no means representing Ivy. So anything that he says, just a disclaimer for folks, right? So anything that he says is his opinion. He's by no means representing what the board or the organization is saying. Just before we get into the meat and ask him all the questions we want to ask him. So just a heads up, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I will plus one on that disclaimer as well, because people in Ivy know what I'm doing right now, which is when I'm talking to you. But of course, I'm not speaking for them. I'm not speaking for Ivy as an organization. It's just what I have seen in my years of advocacy as to I think what needs to happen next. So yeah, go ahead.
Great. What has Ivy been up to in 2024, Adnan? I mean, something that we see on Twitter, right, is there's this thing that says, in December, we see two things. We see Santa Claus and we see Ivy. I know that's not the case, right? I know there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Yep.
So could you fill us in on what you've been up to 2024, just so that we know, the rest of the listeners know that what Ivy's been working on?
Yeah, sure. So um, before we talk about 2024, let's talk about 2023 as well.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because for a lot of people, or maybe for a lot of listeners, and I'm in no way trying to be patronizing in any way, but just trying to make people understand how the system works as well.
Right.
As you may know, we have the legislative branch is divided into two houses. One is the House and the Senate in America.
Yes.
And the House turns every 2 years, right? Now, and the Senate, it's a senator is supposed to be in the Senate for 6 years. They have a 6-year term, but every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate goes through an election.
Gotcha.
So they don't, at the end of 6 years, it's not like all 100 senators are going through an election cycle. It's only 1/3 of them every 2 years. So what happens every 2 years is any bills that were introduced in the previous legislative session, they all go away.
Yeah.
And in the new legislative session, a new bill is introduced not only in the House, but in the Senate as well. All new bills are introduced, right? So every 2 years, what we do is we have to, reintroduce a bill. And I'm not just talking about my bill, it's all bills. So in 2023, we had a bill that was introduced because now, again, it was a new session of Congress, which was the Immigration, Visa, Efficiency, and Security Act. And that was, again, going after per country caps, 1 page. But the rest of the 19 pages was more about also making the H-1B system, reforming the H-1B system and making it more efficient. We were working on that. I think we got up to like 35 or 36 bipartisan co-sponsors, an equal number of Democrats and Republicans from the entire political spectrum. And then, as you know, one of the biggest elections got started in 2024. And as you are also aware that in America, even if though the election is in November, it actually starts all the way in January.
Okay.
So as soon as that happens, it's very difficult to get into and start conversations about your own bill and to get it through.
Yeah.
So after a good peak that we had in 2023, the conversation somewhere plateaued, right? And there's not much that happens behind the scenes after that because everybody is in election mode in an election cycle. And, it's just the nature of things that things just don't move anymore. And you must have seen that as well. Like especially after, March, April, like spring, summer, nothing really happens in Congress, unfortunately. So that is exactly what just happened. And then when we come to December now, and I'm assuming that you're referring to the call that we just had as well, that Immigration Voice had.
Yes.
A new legislative session is starting. We have a new executive branch. We have a new House that is going to come up. We will have a bunch of senators that are going to join the Senate as well.
Right.
And that is why the conversation needs to start again, because again, we are going to start from scratch, from zero, and now we have to again build up, conversations around our bill, our situation, and get it through this session of Congress. So that is why you see this lull and this sudden spike.
Gotcha.
It is because of that reason.
Are you guys hopeful for the next 2 years?
Yes. So we are always positive. We're always positive. And the reason for that is, I'm sure your listeners maybe know about this, but we have introduced our bill twice in the House in this last, decades that we have been in business in. And in, both times, the bill has passed the House, not only with a bipartisan majority, but with a super majority, right? Like more than 2/3 of the House has supported the bill, like voted yes on the bill. we actually carry this unique distinction of being the only immigration bill in the last couple of decades that has passed the Senate with unanimous consent. Unfortunately, what has happened is the bill that passed the House and the bill that passed the Senate, they were different because you had to go through negotiations in the Senate to get that bill to pass.
Right.
And unfortunately, we were not able to reconcile those bills in time to then, get it actually established as law. I mean, that is what has happened in the past. And that is where we are right now. So we are very positive, right? I mean, in the sense that we are as positive can be. We don't, our mood does not change just because it's a different, executive branch and a different House, different Senate. We know that our bill is good enough to pass. We just need the support from our own people to get it through. So
it was our third episode, right, Sanjay? The Eagle Act, the one that
Yep.
was
one where we almost got it.
Yeah, the one where we almost won was the title we gave.
Yeah.
So
and I know, Adnan, you've probably repeated this quite a few times, but I'm really glad you went this route with explaining how Congress works at the start, because it's
sure.
I think it's very important to set that context for our listeners, because especially for folks, there's a mix of group of people that listen to our podcast. There's few who've just started their backlog journey in quotes, and there's folks who've
got a long way to go.
Yeah,
who've been in the trenches, and there's a side and both sides have the same. And I'm glad you said the context, because it's not as easy as just, there's a bill, we just need to get it passed, we need to call. No, it's not. There's a lot of changing variables every 2 years, effectively. And that's beside the general political environment around things like immigration and stuff like that.
And the interesting thing, Sanjay, is that it's not that you work for 2 years, let's say you get to 80%, right?
Yeah.
Whatever effort you're putting in, right? And then in the next legislative session, it comes down to 40%. It's not that. It actually goes down to zero. Right? So now you have to work and put the same amount of effort to at least get up to 80%, because that is where you were before, right? And then put in more effort to get it through. And you really don't have those 2 years. And this is extremely important for people to understand, that elections don't happen in December. They don't happen in January, right? They happen in November. But the representatives who are in Congress, as well as the senators, they need to start campaigning a few months before. So the election cycle does not really start in November. It actually starts, let's say, in spring. So you don't have 2 years. You have maybe a year and a couple of months to actually get your bill through, because after that it's difficult to have conversations around a bill that doesn't have as much I guess awareness in Congress, as well as support in Congress from a perspective of it's not that it's not an issue that affects most Americans, right? So you have to be cognizant of that fact as well, that you have a very limited timeline in order to get things through. So
do you guys have a community therapist or something? Because if I had to do this, every 2 years and rock bottom, oh my God, okay, start from scratch again. Oh my God, I'd probably, I wouldn't be this positive.
No. So, and this is actually, Rahul, a very, very important point you brought up, because I'm telling you, man, the closer you are, to things that happen in Congress, I cannot tell you how hard that depression hits, right? And it actually becomes a serious conversation, because people work on it and they see that, we are being successful, we are getting co-sponsors, people are understanding what the issue is, and you are almost there, and then it doesn't happen. And it's that feeling is horrible. So
because a lot of people just give up at that point, right? A lot of people I ask saying, hey, why don't you talk about this? Hey man, we've been in the backlog for 10 years. We've done this. Nothing's going to change. So we just checked out. So for folks who've been in the game from 2005, hats off to you guys. I don't know where you get the energy or the positivity to continue, but it's not something like you're running a race and you're done like at the end of 5 laps, right? You're just running and hoping that at one point the race will get done. You just can't afford to give up at that point. But yeah.
And remember, Rahul, like there's another element as well internally, other than the 2-year change and all this stuff, is that I think I would assume, like, folks have been in the backlog for a long time. Let's say, you've been there for a decade. So you're at the peak of your, like, I'm going to get through this, push this through.
Right.
And let's say, 15 years later or something, these folks are like done advocating, they've gotten their green card or something. They're like, okay, I'm too tired. You need a new cohort of people to get
absolutely
energetic enough to start advocating again. So that's constantly changing as well. And again, like,
No, you bring a very valid point, because it's another question that I had for Adnan, right? I feel like a lot of people who've crossed over, right, who've gotten the citizenship, who now have the right to vote, don't care as much about the issues, what I've seen. I could be wrong. So I'm asking you, have you felt the same way? And I expect, or I would hope that those guys with citizenships who have the right to vote are more actively campaigning than us, because their voice holds more weight now. But they don't care. Like, I see these groups online, these Facebook groups and stuff, and now it's reached a point where I've literally seen this, right? They're like, we don't want more Indians. They're competition for our kids. And I'm like, guys, you've literally come the same way.
That's what I was talking about, the third group of people that Adnan mentioned earlier, about closing the door behind them,
Because I know we were joking about it, but what you said was, it's something that I've thought about many times. I'm like, the support from the folks who've now become citizens is not as strong as I thought it would be. That
when you guys are talking right now, you see me smile, and I don't want to comment on it at all, because what you're saying is a true sentiment, right? Yes. So we have seen people who are very, very involved, and amazing advocates for this particular issue, and because for whatever reason, I don't want to point fingers at them, right? But because of maybe life challenges or whatever, maybe their own attitude, I have no idea, right? Yeah. They decide to, we want to take a step back. And I'm just like, because it's like, man,
they matter. They matter.
It's not only that they matter, but now they know exactly how to speak on this particular issue, right? Because of course, if a novice goes into a representative's office, and a person who has been to the representative's office, like, multiple number of times,
right,
their speech and what they say is going to be different.
Yeah, 100%.
And not only that, but of course, when you become a green card holder in US law, you are now eligible to donate to political parties, right? So as soon as you get your green card, you have a say. Of course, you can vote, but you do have a say in the election process. Yep. And then, of course, when you become a citizen, then
even more, right? Yeah.
Even more, because now you can vote. So yes, that does happen. It is disappointing, but that's just the nature of things, right? So
yep, exactly.
How do we?
I want to.
Go for it. No, go for it. No, go for
it.
I want to get to one of the, it's been like 25 minutes and we are only getting the fire started. So then I'm going to go for one of the meatier questions.
Please.
Folks want, at least what we have seen and heard and asked and gotten to know from folks, is that why has Ivy not been clear on its I think on its media angle in terms of representing, there's a lot of sentiment in the group that they've burned a lot of bridges with certain public outcry against senators or representatives, and that is caused like, oh, they shouldn't have done this, done that. And for what it's worth, let me clarify, like I at least understand very well, like this, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and say you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and but then again, like
we get a lot of that, Sanjay. We get a lot of that. Someone who's not involved in the podcast, why don't you guys do this? I'm like, guys, it's not that simple. We're struggling.
Yeah, and but like I want to ask a question, because I know this is there on a lot of folks' mind. Like, there seems to be a lot of sentiment on burnt bridges that Ivy has, and a lot of people have talked about, no, I'm not innocent because they have a bad name now or an image or whatever. And again, this is conflated by a lot of folks. Like there are a couple of people on Twitter that do a lot of engagement based on this stuff. I'm not calling that person out explicitly for libel reasons, and also because I don't think that person is worthy of that cause being even mentioned. But what are your thoughts on this?
No, so this is actually a pretty good question. And again, I'm sorry I get into this like sounding like patronizing mode, but this is more of like an educational, tilt to like what I'm trying to say as well. I mean, you when I say you, I guess I'm talking to listeners. Like everybody needs to understand that Washington D.C., right? The way it works, it is a very different beast, right? They are people in Washington D.C. who are great. They are doing great work, right? But it is also what is called in the media by a lot of people a swamp, right? They are organizations. They are people that exist whose main motivation is simply to make some sort of profit from this dysfunction that's happening in Washington D.C. And even it could be possible that maybe you're not aware, but you do see it. You do see it in news channels. You do see it from news that is coming out of Washington D.C. as well, because the talk that comes out, some of them is so bad for not only our consumption but for society as well, right? But it does happen, right? And the more mature you get, right, about like what's going on, the more you understand that, man, these news organizations, their ultimate goal is to make profit, right? So of course they're going to put news and put details out there that is going to cause the biggest amount of like, outcry, because then they're going to get more eyeballs, right? They're going to get more engagement. And this happens everywhere. This happens in social media. This happens everywhere, right? That is what. So dull conversations, but enlightening conversations are very few, right? But they do happen by a very small number of people. Now let's come to to answer your question, right? If there are certain organizations or certain people who are talking bad about IV or maybe about the backlog or any of that situation, IV leadership is not afraid to call a spade, right? And that is where we just say, this is why this person is saying this, and you need to understand this. Does it burn bridges? Of course it does. Of course it does, right? But what are we supposed to do? Are we always supposed to compromise? Or are we supposed to fight against misinformation that is going to ultimately harm people like us? There are lots of examples that I can say. One would be the lawyer groups, right? You need to understand what is the motivation of immigration lawyers, right? They are more than happy for you to be stuck in a backlog, right? For this situation to exist. Why? Because that's how they get their business. And the more noise they make, unfortunately, our own people go exactly to them to solve immigration issues, because they in their mind think that, oh, here's an immigration lawyer, let me ask him my immigration questions. And then you end up paying $150 per hour because you don't know whether your visa that exists right now or your I-94 that is valid, will you be able to go to India, come back? You don't know who to ask those questions to, so of course you're going to hire that person, right? Because they're in the news. That's how they get their business. So they are going to say the most radical things in order to gain that business as well, right?
I'll push back on for a couple of reasons. One, a not so selfish reason. We've had a couple of really good immigration lawyers, like who at least we feel personally. Now, and of course, this is not like
Right.
denying what you have said at all. Like that's not what I'm trying to say at all. And I completely agree. There are folks who have an incentive to make the system as obfuscated and complicated.
Yeah.
That way, they get to be a middleman and generate income out of it, that their livelihood out or whatever it is. But at the same time, there are folks who genuinely are pretty
Yes.
pretty good. Like Stephen, if you're listening, you're one of the good ones.
Oh, Brad. Yeah.
No, but like I get that. Like and this is something, and I think I'm very happy at that with the way you have clarified this is because a lot of folks who get into the advocacy game, at least me, I don't know about you, Rahul, like are a lot more idealistic on the political spectrum and understanding, but you're very clear, like you understand this is a game. You have to accept these are the rules of the game. People will play these angles. You either cry wolf all the time and not do anything, or accept that you need to play in these lines and do what needs to be done. Yeah.
So a follow on to that, Adnan, we could have responded back with more finesse. Not just we as in IV. I'm talking about a lot of folks, and I'm just taking Sanjay's question and I'm broadening it to almost everyone who's an advocate on Twitter, right? When we something doesn't go our way, we're so quick to tag the 10 senators who are there, or here, throw them under the bus, trash talk, call them, fight with everyone. Because I mean, eventually at the end of it, basic human psychology, right? If you are liked, it's easier to get things done, right? And this is something that I've learned when we were interviewing Deep and Improve the Dream, the previous episode, right? It's like they get a lot of hate too, but at least him or his people, right? The way they respond back is, I feel like there's a level of finesse in that. Like us, like for example, I just the other day, some lawyer said something. We were, like 10 people, like 10 of us were like, "Oh, you suck! You want this? You Isla, blah 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 blah." I'm like, guys, like, it's okay. We don't have to immediately vent it out. We can do it in a more refined way, so as to and that just helps get more people. You said, right, like sometimes bridges are burnt. Maybe we can save a few of those bridges. You never know when they come in.
No, so I think we are talking about maybe a little bit different things.
Right, I just took Sanjay's thing and I just expanded it a little bit.
So we definitely do not condone any sort of behavior that you are talking about that happens on Twitter. I personally hate it, right? First of all, I hate this fact that anybody says anything, 10 people jump in to engage. Like, why? Especially on Twitter. Why? Right? Yeah. Why are you wasting a good part of your day engaging with someone? And not only doing that, but it's so foolish to like sit and tag people, right? Just have a conversation with that person instead of tagging other people, because maybe you want other people to somehow look at what you're saying.
Yeah.
We do not.
Yes, that is the thing. Yeah, it's the toxic dopamine rush you get out of it.
Yeah. And that is what social media does, right? And we don't condone that. You probably will never see Immigration Voice like getting into an argument with people. I would also say that sometimes you think that, hey, this person is from Immigration Voice, so he represents Immigration Voice. He or she represents Immigration Voice. So maybe Immigration Voice is telling them to go after that person. We don't do that either. Right. We are very clear, even in our fly-ins that we have in DC, that when we are going and talking to representatives' office as well, extremely well behaved, listen to the questions, answer the questions, move on, right? If there's someone that is saying something that you don't like, fine, just listen to it, move on, right? That is exactly how you're supposed to behave on Twitter. So you're absolutely right about that.
Yep.
The bridges burning that I was talking about is that if you would recall, there was a recent senator in recent memory that we really went after. And that was because we were seeing what they were doing behind the scenes in DC.
Okay.
So yes, we will go after people or organizations that we know are purposefully trying to harm what we are trying to do, right?
Gotcha.
And not harm in the way where they are saying, hey, I don't think this is right. Can we do it this way? Where they're negotiating. Let me give you an example, right? This is what happens in DC right now. And I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name situations.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go there, right? But here's what happens. Let's say Sanjay, right, he's passionate about a particular issue, and he wants to get that bill introduced in Congress, and he wants to advocate and get it through. Right. What Sanjay is going to do is, he's of course cannot do it directly. He will engage with someone in Washington, D.C., maybe a lobbyist or someone who can potentially help Sanjay get that issue through, right?
Correct.
So Sanjay will go talk to someone, talk to someone else, and he'll try to see who is the best person who can give him the best bang for the buck, right? So now Sanjay has talked to 6 or 7 maybe firms, right, to see if they can help him get something through. Sanjay does get someone, right? Now, he's actively, passionately trying to get something through in Congress.
Right.
But there are other people who know that Sanjay is trying to get something through, right? And of course, Sanjay's issue, there will be a certain maybe group of people or someone who might not benefit from what Sanjay is trying to do. Because of course there's give and take everywhere, right? Now, what these other firms, I'm not saying all of them do this, but some of them, what they will do is they see this as an opportunity to make money. Naturally, right? Because they're sitting, they want their business as well. They want to run their houses, right? So what they will do is they will try to go and talk. Now, the opposite is happening. Those firms will now try to go and find a coalition of people who are against what Sanjay is doing, right? And this is how it works. They are firms, they are people who are sitting in Washington, D.C., whose main aim is to always oppose whatever you're trying to do, even if it doesn't affect them. Why? Because that is just the nature of the beast.
Gotcha.
And you have to call this out. You can't just sit back, right? So that is what I was trying to talk about.
Gotcha.
What you are saying, this nonsense that happens on Twitter, and sometimes this abuse also happens, from what I've heard, in person with people as well. Like, there are people who go to local offices and will trash talk normal, like, I would say young people, right? Because that's how you start in Congress as well. There's these young people who are sitting in offices, the representatives' local offices, and they'll just trash talk them, and that person doesn't even know what the issue is, right? And their representative has taken a stand. They're just conveying the message, and you're trash talking them. We don't condone any of this, right? And we never have. And we are so strongly against it. And now that you brought up a certain reporter as well, that reporter will probably, maybe say that, oh, these guys go and abuse people in Congress. Rahul, what I would like you to do is to ask that person, what was the date and time? Who was the person that was abused? Let us know, because we keep a record of every meeting that we do, right? We will give you the names. If that person was really abused, make it a legal situation. Do something about it. We will help you, because we don't condone this behavior at all. That is at least what I think,
Adnan, if you're answering to somebody like that with such objectivity, like the rule of the game is like there is no level of objectivity there. It can keep going lower and lower. This I don't think you should just engage, and I think I'm glad you do that. Like,
yes, so just don't engage. I just don't understand this.
It doesn't make sense, because it's like you mentioned earlier, like they have an incentive because outrage causes more clicks and stuff to their articles and their profile.
This is a pro tip to everybody who's new on X. Put a tweet with the words H1B, backlog, green card. You will see your followers climbing up 10x. I'm telling you, I could literally climb the mountain, right? Take a month-long expedition, climb a mountain without any gear, and make a post about it, and it'll get maybe 10 views. But I say, oh, I'm stuck in the H1B backlog. Before I know it, it's 15,000 views. So, unfortunately, a lot of people take advantage of it. And it bothers me, right? Because I consciously stop myself from tweeting too much about it, because I'm like, it does not feel ethical to just say H1B, get those clicks, and then... But fortunately, it's easy. You've got what, close to 2 million people in the backlog, and you say these magic words. That's your following right there.
And I think people also need to understand that there's something called return on investment, right? You have your time, which is, I don't think a lot of people understand how precious it is, right? And what are you doing with your time? You're sitting on Twitter and trying to engage with people what is that return that you're going to get? And what we are always asking people to do is But what after that? Then what? Right? You are still sitting in the backlog. I'm telling
Right.
you, it does not even move 1%. Right? Because no congressional staffer, forget about the representatives and the senators themselves. No congressional staffer has the time or the inclination to look at Rahul's tweet, right, about one particular tweet and be like, oh man, this is important to this particular person, I'm going to get this bill passed. That's not how it works. Right? Rahul is a nobody to them. So what is the return on of this investment that you just made?
But
It's
people
zero.
don't see, at the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't become as objective as that, right? It's like Sanjay said, that instant dopamine, that likes, retweets, shares, oh my god, like followers increase, oh shit, I should keep doing this. Now with ChatGPT, it's even easier. And sometimes when I see those posts, it's now so easy to tell which is AI generated and which is not, right? At some point, I'm like, guys, like.
And here's the reason. Now I think we have come to this conclusion of why Ivy does not then engage with such people, right? We stop telling people, we stop engaging about this completely, because what's the point? We keep telling you not to do it. We know you're not going to listen because you are in that dopamine fix that you really want.
Right.
So what is the point of saying it again and again? And then when we don't say it, then people point fingers and say, hey, why don't you stop people?
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. And how do we control? I'm not going to tell Rahul and Sanjay what to tweet and what not to tweet. I'm just going to tell you guys, hey, this is not appropriate behavior, first of all.
Right.
Second, there's zero return of investment. What I really want you to do is to just pick up the phone and establish a relationship with your local offices and with your representative in DC. But if you don't want to go down that path and you want to do this, how much can I stop you? I can't. I can't.
But on that note, since you're talking about engagement, Adnan, do you think Ivy could do a better job engaging with the general public?
Yes, 100%.
Like 100%. Right now, when I think of Ivy, I just see that I and that V, the logo. That's it, right? I unfortunately don't have a face I can associate this organization with.
Yes.
And this is something I feel like you can get a lot more people to join. I feel like that lack of human connection between you and the thousands of people who follow the. No, I'm not talking about the volunteers. They probably have access to you. But I'm talking to the general public.
Hold on. That's an important point you made. Okay, so I'm going to respond with two answers, right? The first is, most of the questions that you're going to ask, I'm going to answer. The answer would be very simple, and this would be the answer. Who do you think Ivy is? Right? In your mind, and in a lot of people's mind, you think that Ivy is this professionally run, $1 million a month budget organization that has a bunch of people who are working full time, getting this going, right?
Wait, you're not
on this particular shit. Yeah, and it's very similar to what you mentioned in the beginning as well, right? Like it's Rahul and Sanjay who are trying to simply get this podcast going. How much are you able to do, right?
Yeah,
and it's the same in Ivy. Aman does not want to be the face of Ivy, at least from what I know. Again, I don't want to speak for him. What the disclaimer was in the beginning, but I know that he doesn't want to be the face of Ivy, right?
Gotcha.
What he wants is he wants you to believe that you are Ivy. I'm not Ivy, right? Now, then you start answering those questions. You are absolutely correct, Rahul. We don't have a media game. You are great in media, and I'm just saying that because you have a decent amount of followers for your podcast. You have a decent amount of followers for your Twitter. My question to you is, why haven't you joined Ivy, right? Because from that perspective, you are Ivy, right? Now, the second answer to that question also is, we definitely need all the help that we can get. If people don't step up and try to do, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not media savvy at all, right? So that's just not my expertise. I don't even think about it, right? But you can get involved, right? You do have access. There's no difference between an Ivy volunteer and a public person. I don't even know who these public people are.
No, I mean, to answer that, I'll answer the question first. As in, I'm not speaking of Sanjay. Maybe his story is different. For me, I was part of the Telegram group that you guys had.
Okay.
It's just that when you made the switch to Discord, right, the authentication documents and the ID proofs, I just felt a little uncomfortable providing that. that's the reason why I didn't make the switch into Discord. The second part of it, right? It's if I feel like, don't you think that's a very idealistic take on the fact that, yeah, I get it. Like, I feel like Sanjay feels the same way. We feel like we need to give back to the community, or we need to raise our voices, which is why we went ahead and started this, right? But for your everyday, for your normal person who probably doesn't care about it, right? Having this expectation on them that, hey, you know what, think about this as a part of you step up and do it. Do you think it's realistic to have that expectation from them?
Of course it is. Of course. And I'll tell you why. When you come into this country, right, and you go through H-1B and you apply for your I-140, etc., right, you're still not sure of what you're getting into. You actually don't even know what you're getting into. We are all extremely naive, right? And I'm telling you, having lived in the backlog for at least a decade now is horrible. It becomes worse when you start climbing your professional ladder, right? And it becomes worse when you start growing your family, when you get your wife, when you start having kids, etc. It is definitely realistic to have that expectation that if something is having such a huge impact in your life, and you are the one, putting the onus on someone to come to you and provide you with information and tell you, hey, why don't you come and join us, and give you incentives. That's crazy. Because for me, it becomes, don't you care about your life? Don't you care about the fact that you could have achieved a crazy amount of success professionally in this 10 years, and the only thing that was holding you back was to sit in the backlog, right? If you were at work and if there was some sort of situation that was holding you back, you would go raising hell about it. You would go talk to your managers, you would go talk to people around you. Well, why aren't you doing something about that right now? Because what your expectation is that, oh man, I don't know anything. I want IB to come and tell me everything, do stuff for me, and then I will decide whether I want to be a part of it.
So I'll push back on some of that. One of the reasons being, like, for what it's worth, I don't think, and this is my perspective. Of course, this is our podcast, so this is typically, I'm not representing any other group of people in any sort, but my understanding is that a lot of people don't think they have the agency in themselves than what
care.
you and I or Rahul think about. That I myself individually can take action and make sort of change. Then, and they'd be like, oh, this is, I'm just lucky the roof's not falling over my head and things are just getting along fine.
Yeah, they just don't care. Yeah,
right. Like, and that I can understand where that comes from. Like, and I feel that is definitely a part of it.
Because in our group of friends, Sanjay and I are like the two idiots who keep talking about immigration. We constantly talk about immigration. They're like, guys, like, let's talk about other stuff. I'm like, no, this is a big problem.
Yeah. No, this is great. So I thought Sanjay was going to say something that was going to be like a Yorker or something. Like, I would not be able to face it. Like, it would be something hard. But that is exactly what the issue is, man. That is exactly what the problem is. The problem is that you don't think that your voice matters. That is exactly what the issue is. So either what you do is take a step back, or you say, man, my voice does not matter. Nothing is going to happen. Let me walk away. Yep. And that is the biggest disservice you are doing, not only to yourself, right, but to American society. Because I'm telling you, maybe that attitude flies in India. Maybe there's a reason for it, but that attitude does not fly over here.
Yep. Yep.
But now,
I have mixed feelings on this, Adnan. I feel like there's a good percentage of people who want to do it but don't know where to start, just because they don't find that connection point.
Perfect.
And if let's say I see Adnan speaking on Reels, speaking on videos, speaking on this, I have to connect with Adnan. Adnan says, hey, do this. I'll be like, I'll follow Adnan. Right now, you know what I mean? I get it. I'm on board with you. I personally think that my voice matters. Sanjay feels the same way. You feel the same way. There's a good chunk of people who just want that nudge in that right direction. And I feel like
That's a very good point. Like, and I want to answer the question you asked us about why we haven't joined. Like, and this is, I think, and I'm going to take the liberty of speaking on behalf of Rahul and me, is that we feel there's more than one way in which you can raise awareness on what this problem is. It's sort of like there's this large funnel. Like Ivy is like probably at the tip of the funnel where you are doing actionable work on what needs to be done to fix the system.
Yep.
But we are thinking along like there's a ton of folks who don't even are aware that there are a lot of people talking or are frustrated with this problem. So we, that top level funnel, like, hey, we want to bring awareness to that. Like there are organizations like Ivy that does this. Listen to them, go here. And we think we belong in that, portion of the pie. And it's not necessarily like I think that there's just one single way to get there.
And our hope is that if people who see this episode see you use us as a medium to come to Ivy and join you guys. And we get like maybe
a percentage of the any donations.
100 people join. 100 people sign up for something.
But
that's a hope.
But let me answer that. There are 2 points that were raised, and I'm gonna address both of those. Right. The first is the question that you had asked me was that why aren't you more public? Right.
Right.
And I told you from the beginning. I'm admitting the fact that yes, we need to do a better job there.
Gotcha.
What I'm trying to tell you is that we don't have anybody to do that, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is I'm asking you that if you think we don't do a good job there, do it for us, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you have to join.
There were steps in that direction. Adnan, like we had a call before the conference call, right? We got on a call to see how we can increase the leverage and stuff.
Right.
I feel like we're getting there, but it's my hope. But I see more of you. I see more of you
but
on
if you had
Ivy's page.
Yes, but if you had not suggested that to me, right, I would not have gotten the call because I didn't even know that was possible. Like I didn't even know what the value of that was. What you were suggesting to me, I'm not going to mention what you had suggested, but what the value of that, I didn't know that, right? You knew the value. But if we had someone like you who knew the value within our organization or one of the volunteers that is on Discord, they would say, oh yeah, let's do this as well.
Let's do it.
Right? And that is what I'm trying to address. So I'm completely with you guys, but I want you to get rid of this notion. And by you, again, I don't mean the two of you, but the listeners as well, that this is some professionally run organization, because I'm going to go back to that. I should finish that thought as well. We are operating on an extremely shoestring budget. Because if you go on, I'm going to do a plug over here, but immigrationvoice.org/contribute, you will see the amount that we need to raise, which is $50,000 every month. And the amount that we have right now, it's December 17th. It's probably like $3,000 or $4,000, right? It doesn't match. Like it's crazy. And once you know what amount of money is needed to get things rolling, you will understand that. And how will you know that, right? Because I'm sure that will be the next question. Like, is it transparent? Like, how do we know that, right?
Yeah.
So once you join,
that was the next question.
Yeah, and that was my first question as well. I wanted to ask. I wanted to understand. So Ivy, and very quickly, I'll go through that as well. So Ivy is a nonprofit organization that is registered with the IRS as well. We have a number, right?
Right.
Because of which we have to, by law, we have to publicly release information on our financials. You can easily search for it online. You will be able to find it. I promise you. If you're good with Google, you will be able to find it.
Okay.
Right? So that's that. But what happens with that is once you join Discord and you start talking to people, you know exactly where the money is going. I assure you that Aman is not keeping it in his pocket. Or any other members are not keeping it in this pocket.
Seriously?
Right?
Are you sure he's not gotten like a new yacht that says IV in
so
Florida
that is
or something? I'm
you know
just
what,
joking.
guys?
I'm being sarcastic, by
that
the
is
way.
exactly that is exactly what we accuse him of in Discord. We're always like, man, Aman, like you're gonna go sit in your yacht again. I'm pretty sure.
That was funny.
So let me address the other thing that you brought up was Discord and this perception that, oh man, I have to do so much to join, right? So when Ivy was trying to pass these bills, right? There were certain things that we were doing that was very confidential, right? Because we were talking to senators that matter, representatives that matter, right? And we end up being in situations where people ask us, volunteers, right? People. And when I talk about these volunteers, when I say immigration voice volunteers, I'm not talking about a person who is just there for updates. I'm talking about
Yeah.
a person who is actually engaged, like calling officers, like
right.
establishing relationship. And that person was able to get co-sponsors added to the bill. I'm talking about that level of engagement, right? That person will simply ask us on, let's say, a Telegram channel, hey, what happened with this representative? What happens with the senator, right? That name is out. They said the representative's name, they said the senator's name, through no fault of theirs. Like, they're just asking questions, right? And then we have to respond to it, right? I mean, not we, but like somebody responds to it. And then the information that is supposed to be confidential goes out, right? And if you join any of these Telegram, WhatsApp channels, you will see that information easily flows out. Like, that's just the nature of things, 100%. Right? So what we were hit with a couple of times was this, just being in these bad situations where we were trying to keep information tight, but somehow, it just went around.
Leaked out.
In Telegram, anybody is able to join. You don't know who that person is. You don't know who that handle is. So what we decided to do was to take a conscious decision to move to Discord. And we have implemented these flows. What is this flow? This flow is, we have engaged an a company called Persona. You can look it up. What Persona does is two things for us. It simply verifies the ID of the person and makes sure that person actually exists. That's it, right? Because of which you have to provide information, which is your driver's license and your passport, the first page of your passport, right? Once that information is sent to Persona, they process that information and they give us a thumbs up saying, yep, this person is good. This person is legit. We could not stop at driver's license because there's a way to have fake IDs. We have like two pieces of information. Persona is a software that is used by most companies around the world. We pay good money for this. To also ID you when they're making you go through a background check. So you provide that information to them as well. That information is then securely stored somewhere. Even I don't know where it's stored. I have never accessed that information. I assure you nobody in IB has accessed that information. All we are getting from this information is that this person is legit. Okay. Now imagine Rahul has joined Discord. Sanjay has joined Discord. I know exactly who you guys are. Now we share information. Now I can tell you openly, and this is what's happening in Discord right now. We just say openly that this is what's going on right now because I know who you are. Right? I'm extremely comfortable with sharing information. You are extremely comfortable with asking information because you know that nobody's going to take a snapshot or screenshot of this and share it around. Nobody's going to do that, right? Yeah. It becomes more secure. And once you go through this process, what you will realize is that, nothing happened. Like, I just gave my ID, I got verified. That piece of information, nobody is ever going to look at it. It's completely secure because it's run by a company that is known to do this stuff. Right. We have verified you, so we are satisfied as well. Now you join the organization and now you join Discord and let's have a discussion. That's all it is.
No, that's fair. No, running a community group, I totally understand the need to keep it as tight as possible. And if folks tuning in, if you've heard the process, you've heard everything that's required, that's needed from you to join IV from Adnan. So if we'll make sure that we drop the link in our show notes. You can click on that and join it, and then work with IV more.
Yeah, the jokes will still be around saying that, oh man, we have to go through a background check. We have to make sure we haven't done anything illegal in the past. But those jokes are good. We do.
I
it's just
think
a process.
there's a certain percentage of minority voices that conveniently call out such reasons because they don't want to take the trouble of doing anything about it. But because it's easier to do that than be active in it, right? Oh well, okay. That's so. I would just ignore a lot of the stuff. People who genuinely want to be a part of this, contribute, they will get in. And if you are one of those people, we definitely recommend, joining IV's group.
Absolutely.
So Sanjay,
every organization.
Yeah, you actually hit the nail on the head. So what we found out then was that instead of having 2,000, 3,000 people on our Telegram group and having this dopamine fix from our side as well, that, oh man, so many people are interested in this organization. We have a lesser number of folks on Discord. but we know that who has joined is
They
very
hold their weight up,
dedicated, and their return of investment that we get from them is much, much better than what we had in Telegram. So we have taken this decision consciously. We were worried about it, but at the end, and at this point, we don't regret it. We are happy with this decision that we have made. So,
Gotcha.
I want to call out something like that. I wanted to talk about because, as much as folks in the backlog love complaining about the issues that IVs had, especially for folks from India like us, like who, especially for until 2015, for historical context, spouses on H4s could not work. That's when the Obama administration came out of the EAD. And what happened is in 2020, there was a group that actually went all the way up to the Supreme Court to remove this particular worker classification, to remove the EAD classification. Right? The Save Jobs USA, the case. Yeah. And Ivy was the prominent organization that ensured that, they didn't win in court. And so a lot of people, if your spouse is working on an H4 EAD today and you're listening to us, like Ivy is a huge part of ensuring that
click that donate button right now.
Yeah, really, like it truly does. You have to know, like that's a great win. Like, and it goes back to Adnan, what you're saying. It's sort of like a berry market, right? There's always another group that's on the opposite side that plays to go to the other side.
So this is a very, very important example that you mentioned. I think we should switch sides. I think I should run the podcast and you guys should, represent IV. But that's another important thing, right? So yes, you said the points that you said, extremely crucial. Our spouses are able to work because of that. But on the flip side, what you need to realize is that IV as an organization was the only organization that stepped up, right? Yeah. Lots of people could have stepped up. And there were two individuals, Anuj and Sudarshana, who actually stepped up and were people who were in court, right? Mm-hmm. Now, imagine, Rahul, like if they were the people who were scared of even volunteering, right? Because of course, like going to court, putting your name in a court docket, like I think 90% of people in this country would not do it, right? Yeah. Yeah. But they did it.
100%.
And and yes, there's Immigration Voice's name, but Immigration Voice's name was not on the docket, right? It was their names. And we were the ones sponsoring them, right? We were the ones who hired the lawyer because it was a community effort to like, let's see, let's let this get through. So this is why volunteering and stepping up is so important. You don't have to be scared. Now, if you talk to Sudarshana, Anuj, they'll be like, man, there's nothing to be scared about.
Yeah.
Because this country values. And this is, I think, another thing that people don't realize. This country values when you step up and say something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Representatives and senators' offices value when you come and talk to them. If you are going to be on Twitter and tagging people, that does nothing. But
we spoke on a similar line, Adnan. A few episodes ago with I think it was John Waston. The fact that it's not as it's a little different. I mean, we come with the bias that maybe in India it might be a little different, but in here it's the common fear is that you're painting a target on your back, but it's not like that. It's not like that.
It's insane. It's that flip. We should dedicate like at least half an hour to this particular subject, right? Because when that
so you are coming back. That's what you're saying.
No, that switch flips in your head like I'm telling you, I went crazy when I realized that, right? Because I was so scared to like even go and talk to someone, right? And even put myself out. But as soon as that switch flips and you realize that this country actually values that, I'm telling you, people don't like if you are going through some problem and you're just sitting quiet and not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
They value people who are going through something and speak up because they will do anything to listen to you then and to help you actually, right? This is what this country does. And I'm telling you, I don't want to put my own country down, but in India, maybe that's not the way it works because as soon as you say something, it's like, sit down, man. Don't create too much noise. Like it's okay. Like just move on.
Exactly.
Or like, you get beaten up.
Or like this. It's like the attitude that we all align on is this "chalta hai" attitude. It's okay. It's
absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
Right? And everybody says yes to it. It's unfortunate, but over here, that "chalta hai" attitude is not okay. You have to make that change because that's when you are valued. So,
Yep. I happened to hear the call that you guys had on Sunday, Adnan, right? I heard Aman say this one line that I wrote down saying that formula for success is to coordinate and speak with one voice, right? Unfortunately, right now, we have a few voices. We don't have one voice, right? We've got Ivy, we've got Improve the Dream, we've got Anuj, who's a friend of ours, his organization, Fair America. So I was thinking about it, right? We're effectively splitting the resources into a bunch of different buckets, right? You've got your lobbyists, Leon and Holland at Night, and one of the points, the call to action that you guys had was saying that, hey, we need to have money to afford these guys. And I'm sure Anuj has his goals, and I'm sure Deep has his goals. Everybody's doing great, right? But aren't we kind of dividing our efforts by having...
Absolutely. So that's a very good point as well. We have created space. I think Aman mentioned this in the call as well. We definitely created the space, and we have encouraged people to come forward and talk about this, right? I mean, all I really have to say about it is that if you are able to do it, more power to you, right? I just don't understand why you would go that route when you have an organization like IV, right? Where you can get in and you can become your own leader and do exactly what IV is trying to do. But I will also tell you that IV's focus is on the disease. We are not focusing on the symptoms of this particular disease. And one argument could be that, well, it's a symptom, let's just take care of the symptom, right? So for example, if you have brain cancer or something and you get minor headaches, right? Yes, you can take a pill to get rid of those minor headaches, but the brain cancer is still going to be there no matter what.
Right.
What we want to do is to go after the disease, right? Yeah. So we are happy to work with anybody who is going
you guys are? Okay.
Oh, of course. We constantly say it. I think you must have heard that in the call as well. We are happy to work with people or organizations who want to get rid of the backlog, right? That should be the concentration, though. We cannot go sideways. And I'm also going to tell you, this is again my personal statement over here. The H4 EAD, EAD for I-140s. Symptoms, we will work on it, but they are major distractions for us, right? Because the situation is not going to get better. And what we want is for the situation to get better. We only want to eliminate backlogs. Yes, if things are happening in the background and we can support it just to make our lives better, we will do it. We are not going to oppose it. We will actually take the stance to do it, right? But that is not our focus, right? So if you were to ask, hey, what do you think about EADs for I-140? I don't want to even get into that conversation. Of course, if you ask me that question, we will get into that conversation. But I don't want to get into that conversation because that's not the problem. The problem is that you will still be sitting in this backlog, right? You're just marginally making your situation better. So,
because Sanjay and I was saying, right, like you're all powerhouses in your own respective, like you guys, Deep, Anuj. Like imagine all of you in like one team. Like shit, it's like Avengers assemble, It's like, but
I'm gonna I'll disagree with that. Just one explicit reason. And there's no ill intent to what Ivy does. I'd probably say a lot of the reason why other folks are able to build some of the stuff, that path was paved by Ivy. You guys were the first, the frontier, you guys built it. But I also feel at the same time that this idea of having multiple orgs, and of course they have certain approaches or they have certain paths that they choose to go. It doesn't matter as long as it gets more people into the fold generally, and then you can figure out what particular area you get aligned to. Okay, among some people, I'm not okay with the taste that Ivy has, or I'm not okay with how Anuj portrays through Fair America, or how Deep does Improve the Dream. That doesn't affect me. You get to choose and then focus, and that focus of a particular group of people who really want to do, okay, this is what I like to do. They get in. That's more people into the fold, and that's how I see it.
So
Uh,
the
So I
problem
will
with that is
disagree.
we've got like 100 people who actually give a damn, right? Now we've got 33 of them in Ivy, 33 of
Yeah.
them in Fair America, 33 of them this, right? And we've
I
got
agree. I agree.
a
I agree.
lobbyist who costs us maybe $100,000, right?
I agree. I agree.
We've
I
got the
agree.
money going.
That's true.
I donate to Anuj's
Yeah. So do I. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So money's going there, right?
Yeah,
And now I enjoy Deep's. I like Deep.
Yeah.
I support his organization. I'll probably donate there.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Not everyone's going to be like, oh, I'll donate to all three.
But
Everyone's
see,
going to be
no, that goes back to like what we were talking about earlier. Like
Yeah.
that's because at least, and this is not trying to like brag about us, but like we want to deliberately contribute in some way or the other. Like
Right,
either
right.
talking about it through a podcast or
Yeah.
financially contributing some amount or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
And even it doesn't have to be under one roof. It could be like everybody joining and coming up with a strategy saying, I'll take this, you take this, you take this. So there's like a multi-pronged effort towards
but
that end
I
goal.
think you're a little
Guys-
too optimistic in humanity
I am.
now that people get
No,
together.
so
Hey guys, getting rid of the backlog requires a certain level of optimism. Okay.
That's true. That's true. I agree.
so I'm going to say something that will disagree with what your premises are, right? And I'll explain why.
Okay.
And at the same time, what I will also say that I'm not opposed to any other organization,
Yeah.
but
of
I
course.
disagree
Yeah.
with the sentiment that it's still good. And
Mhm.
here's the reason why. On
Mhm.
both sides, it creates major confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the people, just like Rahul mentioned, that, okay, well, where do I give my money, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
where do I provide my time, right? So that confuses people.
Yeah.
But on the other side, imagine you are a staffer that's sitting in the congressional office in DC, right? One person comes and tells you, man, there's this green card backlog.
Mhm.
It's extremely harmful to the American labor market, causes a complete distortion of the labor market,
Mhm.
and causes harm to not only an American worker but an immigrant worker as well.
Mhm.
We need to resolve this, and here's the way we do it: is by removing country caps, which. But we don't want to increase the number of green cards. We don't want to increase the number of H-1B visas. That's one message. So that person now takes that message down. Doesn't know anything about green card backlogs. Doesn't know anything about I-140. Doesn't know about the perm recruiting process. Nothing, right? So now that
Yeah,
person is
yeah.
digesting that information.
Yeah.
Now someone else comes and says, "Hey, you know what? Same look and feature, right?" Now that person is coming and saying, I'm sitting in the backlog. What I want you to do is to simply just do EAD for I-140.
Yeah.
Now a third person comes and says, hey, you know, my parents are sitting in the backlog. I'm above 21 or 18.
Yeah.
And I'm aging out.
Yeah.
I just want you to solve the aging out process.
Mhm.
That staffer is completely confused now. It's like the same type of people came and asked me for 3 or 4 different things. What am I actually supposed to work on? That message completely goes down, right?
I get your perspective. I get it.
And
But
Sanjay,
see,
we have seen this. We have seen this. Right?
Agreed. I'm not. Like I said, I am the guy who's on the sidelines now. You guys are
Yeah.
actually doing the real work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for what it's worth, I think the general problem is that even though there's a lot of Twitter warriors among us, like the larger backlog people ready to smash their keyboards with stuff, there's not enough people genuinely who want to make an active role in changing the law. And I come from that perspective that right now we are not in a place where we have even been able to get that sort of momentum with a larger group of people. So like, okay, we have individual funds for each kind, get in the line, and then when you get fed up, everyone comes, so this big country gaps is the problem. Let's focus on one thing. It's the long game sort of thing. I know it sucks. Like, again, that's just my perspective. We can completely agree, disagree. But
Yep.
I completely get where you're coming from.
And that is why we're not opposed to it, but we're not happy with it as well. Like if you mention the other people and the organizations, this is the reason why we're not happy, is because it dilutes the message that you are trying to get across in Congress. And it doesn't do them any good. It doesn't do us any good. And that is the problem.
Did you mention message, Adnan? what should our messaging strategy be? And again, I know we've spoken for 1 or 20 minutes. Probably we'll try to wrap up with the last 10 minutes or so. Since we have you, one of our earliest conversations was making sure the messaging is right. I don't agree with a lot of messaging that I see on X, and I've been pretty vocal about that too. And some I've supported, some haven't, and it's totally fine. It's your message, your life, your story. I personally don't like using certain words like slavery and all these things and all. I don't agree with that. That's just me. Because
absolutely,
not only is it for many other reasons, I think a couple of things, we also need to be mindful of the country's history that we're working on, right? So if you have an African American representative or senator out there, and you say, you know what, I am a 6-figure someone from the Tex Valley had with Tesla and $1 million home, and I'm a slave. You've lost support right there.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. So, and this is another problem, right? The goal in advocacy is to refine yourself, right? But before we do that, I think you hit the point accurately on the head, right? I don't think people realize what sort of country they're in, right? And not only that, I can actually take you to some Twitter profiles, and I think you know who I'm talking about, or who the people that I'm talking about, where if you open up their Twitter profile, right, what comes up is America is lucky to have someone like me, right? I'm from this university, or I've done this, I'm from Harvard, and like I'm this person, and America is lucky to have me, right? You have to be extremely understanding of the fact that who are you talking to, what are you asking for, right? Now, then the second point is you have to start behaving as if you belong to this country. This is what a lot of us are not able to do, right? We think that we're still Indians and, we still love cricket and stuff like that. That's completely fine. But you have to realize that this is your community now, right? And when you are trying to get the message across, and this is where you see this evolution of the bill as well, even when it came out and what it is today. What we are trying to solve is an American problem, right? And that problem stems from the fact that there's this backlog. Now, what is the response, the first thing that you think a novice does when they go to a representative's office if they don't, talk to, experienced IB people, right? What they will start doing is, oh my God, I'm stuck in a backlog. I have children who are not American citizens, right? If I lose my job, they are going to get kicked out of the country. I'm going to get kicked out of the country. But more importantly, they are going to go to a country that they know nothing about, right? Or they will say something like, man, if I don't have a green card, I cannot get promoted, right? I'm super smart, but I can't do the stuff I want to do. I can't start a business, like stuff like that, right? What is that? What are you hearing, right? You're hearing that person is only talking about them. Like there are people who are stuck in this country who can't freaking go back and visit their parents, who are lying on their deathbed, right?
No, absolutely. I think
they're genuine problems, right? But again, what does that person hear that you're talking about yourself? Fine, right? On Twitter, again, talking about yourself, fine. But are they going to be receptive to what they're saying? No, right? Now let's talk about something else, right? I come to you and say, hey, you know what? There's a problem in our country. We are in a situation right now where there are bad actors who are taking advantage of the situation, where they're creating a distortion in the labor market, which is harming American workers and immigrant workers. And the way that's happening is they're using the H-1B as a ruse to get more and more people from India to come and create this gigantic backlog. Because being in the backlog simply means that now you are in the state of indentured servitude, right? And the longer you are in the backlog, the better it is for these bad actors, these companies that are involved in this, because you are not going anywhere. In some of the big tech companies, the attrition rate of American citizens and permanent residents is maybe 2 or 3 years, right? And I'm talking about the big tech companies as well as the big medical companies as well, right? Like hospitals and stuff. Americans, engineers, as well as doctors, etc., right? They very quickly, as soon as they learn the skills, try to open up their own businesses, their own practices, right?
Yeah.
Who are the people who are sitting in the same company for 10 years, 15 years? Indians, right? Why? Because you think Indians are so like loyal and hardworking to the companies? No, they're stuck in a situation, right? And that is directly causing harm to American workers, and it's completely distorting the labor market. As soon as you hear that, who are you going to be more receptive to? Are you going to be more receptive to the person who was complaining about genuine reasons
100%,
why they were in? Or are you going to now listen, hey, wait, there's a problem in my society, and this person is giving me an avenue to fix it, right? In a bipartisan way, by the way, and I'm going to fix it in this bipartisan way, right? Because you talked about going after a senator sometime back. That senator's claim was that, hey, we should just increase the number of green cards. No, that's not going to pass. It's not going to pass in this political climate. Not with this border crisis that we are having right now.
100%.
No senator is going to say, give more green cards away. No, it's not going to happen, right? So we have created a bill, and this is how the bill has evolved. We have been in this business for 20 years. We know exactly what works and what doesn't. And that is when I say that when these new folks are coming and joining these organizations and confusing people on both sides, it's a little bit harmful, right? What we really want them to do is to come join us. Trust the experience, right? Trust what we are doing. Look at the bill, right? Because now the bill that was passed in 2011 with 390 votes, 390 plus votes, that bill was one page. All it did was remove the country caps. That's all it did, right? Today, the bill is 20 pages because it went through the Senate, it went through the House. And the other 19 pages, you won't believe me, it's all about enforcement, right? Okay. What is that enforcement? To get rid of all these what is the word? Like all these quirks in the system that people are taking advantage of, right? These bad actors are taking advantage of.
So that's something people should really understand. Like, because half the time they're like, stop H1B fraud. I'm like, yes, we are with you. We also want to stop H1B fraud. We're saying the same thing.
But you don't. But that's what I'm trying to say. People don't say the same thing, right?
Okay.
Because now what that person is saying, I'm on an H1B visa, right? Give me a green card. Why? Because I can't go back and visit my parents. Or why? Because I can't buy the house. Or why? Because I can't start my business. This H1B worker, all he wants is things for himself. Right? But now you turn the conversation around and actually make them understand the truth, the problem. The problem is, yes, you are right. I want to go and say all these organizations who come and oppose us. I want to tell them, yes, you're right. We are distorting the labor market, but it's not me as an immigrant. It's the system. And I am telling you, this is the problem. I've given you the solution to fix it in a bipartisan way, right? It cannot be a right bill. It cannot be a left bill. It has to be a bill that is bipartisan because it's an immigration bill. A right bill and left bill is not going to pass, right? An immigration bill that is bipartisan will pass. This is the only bill that will pass, right? So documented dreamers, it's a left bill, right? What other people are trying to do, maybe a right bill. What we are trying to tell you is that this is a bill that will pass, right? And that is the message that we have to get across.
Adnan, for what it's worth, I think you were humble bragging at the start of the story. Your media game was pretty good. Like I completely agree with this.
I was like, shit.
I was like, I never thought of it this way. Like that's that puts it in a completely new perspective.
Dude, you need to put your face out more, man. Like 100%. I'm just telling you. I'm like, take it from me.
It's like
either it's reels or it's videos or something. Just put it out there, man. Seriously, trust me. You will see the number of people who flock in towards IV.
Rahul, I'm so media shy that you don't even know. I think only my wife will be able to tell you how big of a thing you have done by just getting me on this podcast. Like,
maybe it's a start of something big, Adnan.
No, but please, I again want to emphasize that is what the messaging needs to look like. And I'm telling you that I've told this to people on Twitter who post how great they are for America. And they don't change, right? But the problem is that their voice is the one that gets amplified. And I just don't know how we can fight that battle. And that is also why we need people like yourself to join, right? Because then you can help us amplify the message that, honestly, Aman has been saying for a very, very long time. But the problem is that his speech sounds so dull right? Because there's no controversy there. It does, right? Because there's no controversy there. He's just
That's
saying
true.
these
That's true.
same
He's
things.
stating the facts, right?
He's stating the facts, and it's dull.
And no one likes the
It's
facts.
dull.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
get amplified as much as it should, but he has the right idea. Because why?
Yeah.
But this is another important thing, right? Why?
Yeah.
He's an American citizen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a green card permanent resident, and then I'm trying to be a citizen. I don't want the situation where there are more H-1B workers coming in and competing with my jobs.
Yeah.
If they're coming in, so here's the crux of the issue, right? What I was trying to say was that it's your country. You decide how many immigrants you want to come in. That's not my prerogative. Right? You can say that I just want one immigrant coming every year, and that immigrant probably is like someone like Elon Musk. Fine, right? Or you say that I want 100,000 people or maybe 1 million people come in, because this is a country that has 330 million population. So maybe 1% of that, or maybe 0.1% of that. You come up with the number. I don't care. What Ivy is advocating for, right, is to make sure that as soon as that person lands into this country, that person becomes equal from a labor market perspective.
Yeah.
Right? And then in 3 years or in 5 years, based on the performance of that person in terms of, how good of a citizen that person is, right? No felonies, no misdemeanors, etc. You then give that person citizenship, because then you give that person equal rights, right? And that is what every society should strive for, right? Because as soon as there's some sort of unleveling anywhere, right, you are bound to have some sort of discrimination happen. And that discrimination will not only happen against the immigrant worker, it will also happen against that society. Right? And that is what people need to understand.
And then the gap just keeps increasing and increasing.
That's right.
Yep. Wow. I think that was
an hour and a half.
I don't know, Sanjay. Yeah, I know. This is, I think, the longest
I'm suicide now.
It's the longest episode, and I know we have more, but I think this is a good stopping point.
It was, I know this is not the end, Adnan.
It's not the end. Yeah. We'd love to have you back. At some time in the future, and like you said, we've obviously started taking steps towards a better coordinated effort between us and you guys, and that'll definitely continue. And we have a lot of respect for you, for Aman, for everything that you guys have been doing. And I know sometimes gratitude doesn't translate across from the community because everyone wants instant results. But but on behalf of the community, thank you. Thanks to all of you, every volunteer. This was, I think someone had posted, it's very easy to put a tweet, but no one talks about the family who drove in the snow or the snowstorm to, I don't remember what posted, but who put in that effort to go speak to their representatives about their stories. So to all those names we don't know, those stories we haven't heard yet, thank you. And to everyone else listening,
check out Ivy.
Check out Ivy. Reach out.
That's all.
Yeah. Maybe just reach out to them. Listen to their call that they had recently. It's on their Twitter profile. You can see it on SoundCloud. Listen to it. Reach out with questions. We'll be more than happy to connect you guys to them. And until the next episode, Adnan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep, cool. Of course. Thank you.
Wow, that was a long 90-minute episode.
Funny thing is, it's pretty much done in a single take, which is surprising. So I felt the conversation flow is really good.
Flow was great. Was great. And Adnan
I don't know what Adnan keeps telling about the fact, the Ivy's not. Dude is amazing.
Dude is awesome, dude. He was very, very media savvy. He is very media savvy. That's why I said at the end, dude, you need to put your face out there, man, or speak more. You know your stuff. More people will connect with you when.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely think that should be the case. Maybe once the episode comes out, he might have a change of heart.
You never know. Yeah.
You never know.
Before you know it, they'll be like Adnan all over eyes, all his reels and But it was good. I found it very informational. I don't know what you. What did you
absolutely.
think?
And see that's the thing. It goes back to we were discussing originally before we connected with Adnan, right? The goal of what Ivy's trying to achieve, it's always everyone's on board with that. But you've stated that many times, Rahul, the fact that there's no face to it, we don't know what's going on. Who is it? It's just a random either Twitter account or some random admin on Telegram. Nobody knows. But just being able to connect this one person,
it's a big deal, right?
has made so much of a difference. At least for me, like it's like okay, we know they're doing
And
the
think
right
about it,
thing.
dude. It's been 19 years, right?
Yeah,
It's been 19 years, and he said, he said jokingly, stay positive. And so I was like, damn, it's like,
I
are you guys
know,
doing it? How are
I
you guys
know,
doing
right?
it?
I know, it's so good, it's so good.
But it's
like,
good. And love to the folks who are excited to hear, or who, when they heard about the fact that Ivy's doing an episode with us, thanks for the excitement, and thanks for posting some of your questions. We did our best to try include some of them. As you saw, we had a lot more on the plate, but it's, potentially for the next episode if Adnan decides to come back. But yeah, next 2 years, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress. So do your bit, guys. Like, speak out. Volunteer for these organizations. Volunteer. If you think Ivy is matches with what you're looking for, support them. Donate. Even if you can't do anything and don't have time, we understand that it's challenging having a family, a job, and everything else that you need to do. Just donate, right? That's the least you could do. That's whatever you can afford.
Exactly.
And it helps them hit their goals. It helps them hire who they need to hire.
It helps you.
It helps you.
If they end up solving it, like it helps you, like dramatically it changes life. So
think of it as if you're investing in your own future. I'm sure you will see the returns very soon. So,
for sure. Absolutely.
So Ivy, thanks for everything you've done for the immigrant community, and good luck. We are all counting on you and to champion our cause, and we hope you are successful so that we are successful.
Yes, exactly.
In the coming years. So I don't know, Sanjay, anything else to add?
No, I think you've pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. So yeah, thanks for listening, folks. If you've heard all the way up to here, at an hour and a half, we'd love to hear your comments on feedback on not just this episode, on any episode we've done. Get in touch with us through any of our socials, or just reach out, however it is, email, whatever it is. And just, whatever we do, it's only because folks like you listen. So thank you.
We are now on YouTube as well. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on your favorite streaming platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube now. And don't forget to give us a rating as well. Until the next episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Adios.